Hello and welcome to this live today. It's Friday and I hope you're doing good. Um, yeah, I'm just gonna, oops, talk a little bit about today's. I'm gonna talk about elemental imbalances, and yeah, so let's see. Um, this is a quite a study. So I completed a 250-hour um, training in Ayurvedic clinical foundations. And if you're not familiar with Ayurveda, it's the science of life. It translates as the science of life. It's the companion health science to yoga or to the yogis, hailing from India. And this is the system, the sort of indigenous healing system that they use, ancient system that they use to treat um, illness and wellness. So it's um, it's based on again ancient science, and specifically they work with the five elements. So the whole system is based on this, that everything in nature is made of five elements. And once again, we have the number five. So if you're not familiar, the word pancha, say if you've heard of pancha karma, pancha means five. And pancha bhutas, pancha karma, there's a lot of, there's lists of five is a nice sort of number, right? Um, but anyway, in this particular system, there are five elements. So they are earth, fire, water, air, and ether, and they make up our reality. So, um, and if they do make up our reality, then they also make up our bodies and our minds. And so, this is a very um, it's just important to understand um, when we're dealing with nature, which again is full of chaos, seeming chaos, unpredictability. Uh, there are patterns, right? There are patterns that we can trust in nature. And if we understand nature, then we can start to understand our own patterns. And um, half of the battle when you're trying to find an answer is knowing what's happening, and then you can apply practices and wisdom, and get yourself towards your goal, which is wellness. And if you don't know what's going on, then you're kind of out to sea a bit, and it doesn't help, right? It doesn't help where you are, to not know. So this is a navigational system, really. And whoops, I lost my. Uh, there we go. Okay, so the doshas, which I've talked about before, and if you are familiar with Ayurveda at this point, which is way more mainstream now, you'll have heard of the doshas. And a dosha is a constitutional makeup, which indicates an imbalance in your system. So we have three doshas, and they consist of the five elements. And if you did the shadow work challenge, you have a little uh, head, you're a little ahead of the game here. Um, so we have the three doshas are vata, pitta, and kapha. And vata is air and ether elements. Pitta is fire and water, and kapha is earth and water. So when you're looking at a person, we all contain all five elements. There's no way we can't, um, because we are made of all the elements, and you know everything is it's like a microcosm, right, of the macrocosm. That's us. But inevitably, we will have an imbalance in our personal constitution. So that, to narrow that down, we have these three doshas, which would be able to tell you where your dominant imbalance is. And I spoke about this in my podcast, that it's actually easy to see, or depending on how empathic you are, to feel somebody's dosha, to see and feel into their dosha. And again, depending on what your dosha is, you have the capacity to perceive other people's doshas. So, as I mentioned, the Vata person is generally taller, thinner, and they are more etheric, more sort of flighty, ungrounded, scattered, right? That's a Vata type. The Pitta is, of course, fire and water, and is very passionate and intense and focused and driven, and they're the leaders. They're the ones that get things done. They're the ones who are out there running at 5 a.m. The Pitta people. So, and then you have the Kapha people, who are again larger in frame and body weight usually. There's more substance to them. They're more dense. They're heavier, but they're also more solid and sturdy and maybe even dependable in that way, because they're just sort of like your rock, So it's really fun to get to know yourself through the doshas, because it's like suddenly you're like, oh my god, that is how I am, and oh, that's how those people are, and it's all, of course, no judgment ever. We take all the judgment off, but there are, of course, positive and negative attributes to each dosha type, and ways that they will show up in the positive aspect, and also ways that in the shadow aspect, or the negative manifestation, I guess we could say. So when someone has an issue and they are coming to, say, an Ayurvedic practitioner to get treatment, let's just come up with an issue. Hey, say digestion. Okay, so their digestive issue is going to be of a certain type, right? It will either be too sluggish, it will be too acidic. They're, perhaps they have loose stools, or irregular movements. We're talking about the bowels here, and digestion. And this is a really important topic in Ayurveda and in life, of course. So depending on your dosha, you would be predetermined to have certain ways of digesting, or issues with your digestion. So again, if you know that, then you can start to address it from that perspective, and knowing yourself. Again, know thyself, heal thyself. It's the inroad to making progress in this life, and finding more peace and grace and happiness, is when we can know what we need, and then get our needs met. Because of course in our lives, our needs were not always met, early on perhaps, or maybe in our relationships, or in our environments, or wherever. So it's our job, or our goal, to learn more about who we are and what we need. And that's a lifelong journey, as we know. So yes, the elements. One another important diagnostic factor is using the um, gunas. A guna is a quality. Okay, guna means quality, and the gunas of hot, cold. So hot and cold, those are two two sides of a coin, right? Or wet and dry. So you can you're either too wet or you're too dry, you're too hot or you're too cold. And those coincide with the doshas as well. So a pitta person would always be working with heat issues. They will always be on the spectrum of too much heat because they're fiery. They have too much fire in the system, and therefore their issue would often be that they're too dry. Right? Heat. Think of a sauna will dry you out. Um, there are actually, because pitta is fire and water, you can be what's called a pitta, liquid, which is a type of pitta, which means that you could have more water that you deal with and would be then more on the wet side of um, your imbalance. And if you think of it this way too, if you bring together, say, pitta and kapha, so pitta is fire and water, kapha is earth and water, you have a lot of water suddenly, right? So you're going to be dealing with more water issues, more water retention, more, maybe mucus, or, even on the emotional level, tears, right? Emotions. Um, so that's how we can look at the body and the emotions through the elements. So I think it's a fascinating study, and I could honestly say when I did my program, and I got my pulse read, and I was told what my particular um, imbalance imbalances are in, and that is found in our pulse because it's our blood. It's in our bloodline, which means it's hereditary. So it's in the rate, the viscosity, um, and the rhythm of our pulse. And you can tell that if you're really proficient in pulse reading, you can actually read someone's pulse and tell what their blood type is, or sorry, their constitution is through their blood. And and you can tell this with babies, and you can know, like, oh, this baby has, say, is a pitta, right? A pitta type, and you will go, oh, he's gonna, have maybe rashes, or there's just ways that you can start to plan for keeping yourself in the safe zone around the issues that you may be predisposed to face because of your constitution, right? I mean, certain people, if you think about it, right, they have recurring issues. Think of someone in your life like, say you have psoriasis, for instance. There are people who have never had psoriasis ever in their life, and there's people who have chronic issues with it. And that's because those people are predisposed through their constitution. So that would be like a Vata Pitta issue. And because anything um, rash oriented is inflammation. So that would be Pitta. And yeah, it's sort of like playing detective, with your symptoms. And yeah, so, and again, you can heal all of this stuff naturally um, through lifestyle changes, through dietary changes, through supplementation of activities. Say if you needed more or less exercise, or this kind of exercise versus that kind of exercise, right? Wet sauna versus dry sauna. You would know which is best for you and which to avoid. So if you had a wet constitution, you might not want to go in the hot, I mean the wet sauna, meaning a steam room, because that may kick up your issues, that you're already predisposed to have, which are not positive, not comfortable, and you might choose the dry sauna instead, you know. Um, So it's a beautiful way to orient yourself in on your healing path and on your wellness path. You know, wherever you are, what to eat, how to, um, just take care of yourself on the daily. So super important, super fun, and yeah, this is one of my favorite topics. So, and again, if you didn't participate in the Shadow Work Challenge, um, that one of my passions is also the psychology, knowing our psychology through our doshas, because our temperaments are predisposed. We're predisposed to be angry or grumpy or obstinate or stodgy or vacant or absent or flaky or um, loving or affectionate or not affectionate. I mean, if you know somebody's dosha, you can start to go, wow, this is just how they are. This is just who they are. It's not personal to me. It's not, something that you can control. It's something that you can accept, right? And that the more acceptance we can have in life, the better, because there's a lot to deal with, obviously. Um, So yeah, so I think it's a really important thing to understand. And so yeah, again, I've talked about the fact that I have the shadow work course that is very informative. It's an 11-day course. It will take you right there to your mind and understanding how your mind works according to your dosha. And it's like, boom, light bulbs going off everywhere. I have some great testimonials. So it was really a successful project, and it's on sale right now. I can post the link. Um, and but again, for any area of health, and that's why Ayurveda is a holistic health science. It's how they treated all, um, you know, illnesses, and tried attempted to maintain wellness. Um, and yeah, fascinatingly enough, there are many branches actually of different types of Ayurvedic practitioners, including um, including psychiatrists, Ayurvedic, you know, obstetricians, Ayurvedic. They specialize, right? But they're always using this elemental system. So yeah, so I hope that was helpful. It's a little bit of a ramble on the five elements and how helpful it is to understand them and how they can be applied in your um, knowing yourself and getting really on board with uh, feeling optimal, having optimal conditions for your health and insight into your life and into your system and into your ancestry. It's fabulous. I really highly recommend it. So you can, if you're interested in knowing more or working with me and bringing, I do an Ayurvedic intake session. It's 2 hours, so it's a very comprehensive intake. Um, it takes a full 2 hours to get through it, and at the end, I give you a workup with lots of recommendations from the spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical perspective. So dietary, um, yoga, yogic practices, self-care practices, and just recommendations that would help you to move towards balance in your constitution. So that is available. It's a 2 hour session that you can book with me if you're interested, and then thereafter, when you come for a follow up, it's only $60. So the 2 hour session is $200 for 2 hours, and the follow up is 60. It's $60 for for the duration of coming back for just an hour to talk and get more information. So I would send you an email with all this information that from our session, with all the details that you need to move forward. And again, the shadow work course, if you want to do a self-paced journey and kind of get a peek inside your mind into some shadow aspects, because again, dosha is your imbalance, so it is your shadow. It's what you have too much of that you're not necessarily aware is back there, right? So yeah, so please get in touch if you're interested in picking my brain at all a little bit more, and or working together, and I'm available. And again, you can find me at juliabirnbaum.com. So I hope to see you soon, and take care. Have a great weekend. The weather's been so great still. I'm so grateful. Okay, have a lovely afternoon. Bye now.